All right, folks, welcome back to another portfolio review. It is Friday, October 1st, 2021, and this is the portfolio review for September 2021. So jumping right into it, the portfolio is relatively flat year to date. I'm sitting at a gain of 20.3% for the year as compared to the S&P 500, which is at 15.9%. So last month, the S&P had eked out a gain above my performance, but September was a terrible month for the S&P 500, and due to my large cash position, I did okay. I mean, I went down a little bit as well, but not nearly as much as the S&P, and that's why you see the outperformance year to date. In terms of sector allocation, it's essentially the same as it was in September. I still have a rather large cash position at 31%. The only thing that I did starting in September was to slowly reallocate the cash into my risk parity allocation that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, and planning to do that over the next 16 to 18 months. So I'm just going to take that cash and redeploy it across all of my accounts in the portfolio to the allocation over that time frame. Because the investment, because of the sector allocation didn't change all that much in September, neither did the actual investment allocation itself. It's pretty much roughly the same as well. So no big movement there. So speaking of the risk parity allocation, I do keep a specific account at M1 Finance that is fully invested in the risk parity allocation at all times. And I also put a little bit of money into it every month. I think I'm contributing maybe $1,000 to this account. The reason I'm doing that is that it mimics what would happen if you were fully invested in this risk parity allocation with a monthly contribution that kind of mimics, what people normally do. And for the month of September, it's essentially flat, but it's only flat because of that $1,000 contribution. In terms of return, it was down 4.4% for the month. Everything did bad in September. The worst was REIT, but I only have 10% there, but everything else went down. The NASDAQ 100 itself was down 5.1%. Looking at the S&P 500, that was also down 5.1%. So my risk parity allocation is doing about 70 basis point better than the S&P 500 for September. I usually expect a little bit better performance out of the risk parity allocation, but REIT was terrible last month and everything else went down as well, but it's holding its own. So I used to do these two videos separate where I did a portfolio review as one video and then I talk about my risk parity allocation as a separate video, but I've decided to combine them. And what I'm doing that's new is to open up a bigger account that kind of shows what happens if you start to allocate money to this risk parity allocation. So I'm going to put a link to that video down there in the description. And it's basically $1 million account that is probably about half invested into this risk parity allocation. The rest is in cash, and I'm going to slowly move funds into that allocation over time. You can follow along on a monthly basis. I do that every second Tuesday of the month. So check back with me for that video. But that's it for the September monthly portfolio review. Thanks for following along and hope you enjoy it. Later.